Horus. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling great.
I'm doing pretty great, too. Welcome back to the bench. I am feeling a little bit rusty, but...
Me too. It's good to be back, though.
It's good to be back. Folks, how you doing? How we feeling? How we feeling, chat? We ready to do some bench? I'm ready to do some bench. Let's get after it.
Yeah.
How do we do this again? Let's see. Upcoming events.
Oh, yeah.
I've got. Do you have it on your screen, or do I need to tell you?
I
what we
do.
said?
I have it on my screen. Punic War is April 5th. That's down in Carbondale. I don't remember if I have something that weekend, but if I don't, I'm probably going to go. I need to find somewhere to go every weekend until we have practice again.
April 5th, huh?
And then Olympics is April 24th through 27th. I should be there for at least Saturday. And Beltane, May 1st through 4th. That's down in Tennessee. And then SKBC is in Missouri. Definitely be there May 15th through 18th. I need to make sure I got that off for work. I think I already did, but I'll double check.
Thank you very much, Primrose Beta. Punic War, I might be able to go to. It's the same weekend as Tal'Dorei Legends, but I might go to Punic War instead. Olympics, I cannot go to. I know. My stupid friend is having a stupid engagement party because he's getting stupid married. So I probably have to go to that.
How dare they?
He didn't come to my birthday, so we'll see.
No wedding for him.
We'll see. It's not a wedding; it's the engagement party. So,
well, no, that's actually could be more fun.
That's true. Fair enough. Beltane probably can't make that unless a miracle in terms of getting a job happens, and then SKBC, I got to go to that. You may have heard it here before, but I'm getting knighted in Belegarth at SKBC. SKBC stands for Sword Knight Boot Camp. Besides the fact that I'm getting knighted and you should be there, it is one of the best events you could possibly go to learn how to sword fight. It is all bunch of sword knights and warlords from Amtgard, that are. And also some fighters from Bell too. You were trying to push Bell fighters this year too, doing classes and teaching you how to fight. And then the best part's the ditch, because it's an event filled with people who are trying to learn how to fight. So the ditch is always super clean and really good. So highly recommend. But let's get to our show, shall we? Welcome, Sir Galin and Sir Technopop. How are we doing today?
Good.
You lean back in the chair, kind of fall over, and then catch yourself. That's me.
Hell yeah. Today's episode is about field battles, which are our two guests today came highly recommended, to lead us on. So let's take an old gander at our agenda and see what we're going to talk about today. The agenda is our Galin and Techknowe. Techknowe, we're going to redo your introduction if that's cool with you, because sure. the last time you told everybody who you were, that was season 1 and the second episode, I think. So let's do it again. What are types of field battles, and what are field battles? We'll talk about that. Let's discuss loadout, roles, and team composition. Let's discuss tactics and strategy. And let's discuss running, heralding, and designing field battles. I put my camera right in the middle of my screen, so I have to look around it now. That might change in the future. So let's kick things off. Let's see. LV Lerox 037 says, aren't field battles the battles you have on fields? We're
Sometimes.
about to find out.
Episode done. Now we know.
So let's start with Galin. Galin, who are you?
I am Galin. I started sword fighting in '94 Little high school kid. They didn't realize that we were under 18 until like a year after we started fighting almost. But our parents signed waivers, and there we were. Started in Daggerhair in Ohio and Avalon. Fought there until like 2000. Got knighted in Avalon. Ended up stepping away from knighthood for a while. Did the horde thing for a little while. That was fun. That was like the last fighting I did with like my high school buddies. Moved out to Illinois, to Numenor, to start selling swords with Sir Keg, Greg Larson. I love fighting. I just fight a lot. My buddy in high school was like, "Hey, I just went out to the sword fighting thing. You gotta check it out." I was like, "That sounds ridiculous. I have no interest in that. Let's go play Magic." And everybody else is like, "No, we're gonna go check out sword fighting." I was like, "Yeah, fine, whatever." Tried it, was hooked, fought 2, 3, 4 times a week whenever I could. For the first like 20 years I fought. Like I said, moved out to Numenor, started a sword fighting business, which a few people have knowledge of. Like, we've been selling swords for a while. And got knighted out here again and just kept fighting. Fought a lot. Never tried to be that great at fighting, but I love the field fighting. Like, sword fighting practice was practice for events to go do giant field fights and have fun.
So I've heard to the contrary that at one point you were like one of the premier fighters of the game. So I heard.
You fight for 15 hours a week, you can't help but be good.
Yeah.
Used to love sparring too. Like, well, the field fighting wasn't happening yet, so we'll spar till it happens. Oh, the field fighting is done, there's still light. Well, let's fight until there's not light anymore.
So you've been knighted twice, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think not many in Belegarth can claim that.
Usually, especially anymore, you don't have to. Knighthoods tend to, especially in modern days, kind of like, okay, they're a knight of their thing. Like, they're here now. We kind of accept that they're a knight there. It used to be a lot more separated in the past. A, and B, we moved to Numenor, and their governing body at the time were the knights. Like, you did a bunch of volunteering and learned all this stuff, and that was kind of how you earned your vote from then on.
Okay.
Which wasn't the best system, but it was a system. It worked for a while, and now we just have like a normal everybody votes on everything realm. So once again, it's not that much of a thing to just accept anybody as a knight anymore when there's less institutions like that around.
Tell me about units that you may have belonged to.
I was kind of horde for a little while with like my brother and my friends and stuff, but we didn't really treat it as a unit. We just went around and sang songs and were goofy and made fun of people and tried to not get in trouble for it.
That sounds like a unit to
volunteered a lot together. But we ran into things like, oh, that you want us to run a day of fighting at Ragnarok? Okay, great. Hey, we're done with the bullhorn. They're like, oh, you guys just hang on. You're running fighting tomorrow too. Like, you're really just going to give a bunch of 15 to 19-year-olds a bullhorn at night and let us wander around Rag? Then 98, I joined the EBF, Elite Blood Falcons. So I just kind of joined on a whim because like 2 of my best friends at the time, Granifar and Sagana, were joining the unit. I was like, yes, let's join the unit together. I've been fighting for 4 years. I'm ready to join a unit. That turned out to be a much bigger thing than I knew about. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the people in it. And the whole unit kind of has my mentality of like the field is the thing. You only see us get heavy into like team tourneys usually, and we like fighting together. And
heck yeah.
So that's my unit.
Let's casually join ZBF. What a Chad. Let's take it to the chat and see if anybody has any questions for you. While we're queuing up questions, what's your favorite combo of weapons, like for sparring and that kind of stuff?
Is this a me question?
You question, yeah.
For sparring, I like Punch Shield. I've been a really big fan of Punch Shield ever since we found like a boogie board in like 97. On our way to Rag 12, or not on our way, the day before Rag 12, getting stuff together to go camping, all of our stuff flew out of the back of my friend's truck, driving around, and we didn't know it. So we're like, well, we've got all our gear together for the event. We don't have any weapons. Crap. So we went out and we found a boogie board at a place, and we're like, oh my god, we could just turn this into a punch shield if we just do this. And so like we rolled out that like year with these like 12-ounce punch shields, and just we're like, yeah, we found this boogie board for like $8 and we made this shield. We're gonna destroy people now.
Nice.
So I've been a big fan of punch shields for like sparring forever, and then usually a sword or a bat. I've got the advantage of a lefty that I don't know to throw as many complicated stuff, so I can slot better with the sword. But then once I go to like a larger field, I really like the bat because I can be way more casual about hitting the guy like 4 people down. So.
Okay. Sporky Pop says Galin is still one of my most memorable single blue fights. Is there a story there that you'd be able to tell?
I don't know. I've done too many fights.
That's fair.
The only single blue tourney I really remember was one time I was trying to get Arc real bad, and I like did this like giant like lunge, and he like dropped even lower and stabbed me instead, and I'm like, man, I've got to reach. And there's a picture. So
Heck yeah.
That's probably the only reason I can remember it, because there's definitely a picture.
Pippin wants to know, has the EBF been successful in the Galin clone project?
We cloned a couple people, but they burn out fast. We had Spaz, we had One Fang. The clones don't last as long.
Copper Dragon Nexus wants to know, do you have a favorite thing you've ever made?
Favorite thing I've ever made? Funny enough, on accident, I have the favorite thing I've ever made behind me.
Nice.
So I met my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson, a few years back, and that is my favorite sword from his series. And I mean, that's not the first one I made, but we hit it off, and I actually get to make licensed product for them now. And that's like my favorite sword from my favorite author, and I get to make the magically light foam version of it.
Nice.
So cool.
What's your Banjax wants to know, what's your favorite weapon that you sell?
The Max Blue.
Max Blue? Okay.
It's funny because I don't actually own a Max Blue. I cut mine down. Like, it caught on the ground a couple times, and then like it was so slow to go from here to there. I was like, you know what? 45 inches is better than 47 and a half. So, like, of course, I modified mine slightly. And on my normal bat, 2 extra inches. My Max Blue gets 2 less inches.
Interesting. Let's see. LV says, do you have a preferred form of protection? But you mentioned Punch Shield.
Yeah.
Sporky has some clarity on the best blue fight. Sporky says, he showed up like a boss fight, final fight in a single blue tourney where I was too hyper-focused to try and see who was up next. Just an incredibly honorable and clean final. Love it. Costume Delight asks, Costumer Delight, I love that name. Can we ask about recommended sourcing of foam for weapon making? My boyfriend is getting into the fighting side and wants to build his own weapons. That's a weird question to ask a merchant, but...
Also not very related to field fighting. But foambymail.com. If you want to buy a good amount of decent foam, get free shipping. $75 free shipping.
That's fair.
You can't beat free shipping. Anywhere else you go to buy foam, you're gonna pay like $50 to $100 shipping. So
okay. Plug the store.
I run Forge Foam, which is now just me and Piper pretty much. We do have people that come in, guest artists almost, and help out from time to time. But for a long time, we wanted to try to we switched from Athellan Armory, which is what we were originally, to Forge Foam, because we wanted to like take the company in a different direction and go bigger and stuff. And that was really fun for 10 years. And now we're like, you know what? We're going to get back to basics. So right now we do events, we do our favorite events, we do our favorite conventions, and then anything else that we can manage to make on top of stock for that, we sell on the internet.
Nice.
We've got baseline swords, which actually we sell more of, because probably 60% of our sales are to people that don't play an actual game. They'll never, they fight with even sometimes 20 people in the backyard. They buy stuff from us every year. They have no desire to play a game, which was like mind-blowing when we first started selling swords of like bigger things. But it's the people that love to play basketball, but they're never going to go down to the Y and join a league.
Mm-hmm.
They play Call of Duty, but they're never going to join an online tournament. They like the thing, they do the thing.
That's why
They don't need an
60%.
ultralight
Really
sword.
cool.
Yeah, about 60%.
That's
Well,
what?
on full contact sales. Now
Yeah.
we have a lot more LARP sales because we have like a whole LARP line that we sell a lot of at the conventions and stuff like that. So it's like third. But of full contact, it's a little bit more to non-fighters than fighters, I'd say.
That's wildly
Plus there's
unexpected.
stuff like summer camps and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people have a lot of different things they're going to expect us to say. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you have like 20 people that work for you." I'm like, well, the most I ever had was like 8. Or like, "Oh, it's just you guys in a garage." And like at that time, it was like, "Well, no, there's 10 of us."
Wild.
Or like, "You're making millions of dollars selling swords." It's like, I think you need to divide $1 million by the cost of a sword and reevaluate those numbers.
That's wild. That's almost like people who run like like game stores, and they do it because they love Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever, but they make their money selling Magic cards to kids. It's like,
Yeah.
I love Belegarth,
Well,
but I sell most of my stuff to non-fighters.
and I do love Belegarth, but I do also love that there's all these people. Like I've run into groups of kids in different towns, including here, that like just got swords from somewhere and they're just sword fighting.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, that's really cool. Let me see that. That's a cool sword you got there. Sometimes I fight with them. Sometimes I tell them.
Heck yeah.
But like, I have a very like, wait a second, that's sword fighting, like off the side of the highway kind of thing.
Heck yeah.
So I love that aspect of it.
Well, nice to meet you, Galin. Thank you for joining the bench. Techknowe. We're gonna reintroduce Techknowe, even though we have done an introduction in the past, but that was a long time ago. So we're gonna do it again. Techknowe Pop. Who are you?
Why, hello there.
Hello.
I am, but Techknowe suffices usually. I don't expect everybody to learn how to ratchet their upper glottis just to say my name. So let's see. Let's start out the way Galin did. Look at my notes. For
Sword
me.
fighting in '94 in Ohio.
Yeah. No. 2003 in Dothan, Alabama. Right across from Waterworld, and you gotta watch out. It's good they're not open on Sundays because you don't get much spectators. So we just kind of get the cops strolling by every now and then, laughing at us and cheering headshots mostly. 5 or 6 people. We were founded down there by an old name, Sir Frayson Grey Gently. First night I ever met and fought under. Yeah, he's such a good friend that I will call him Ed if he asks me, and I don't use people's government names. But yeah, so fought with Frayson for a couple of years as 18, 19-year-old kid. Left for college in Auburn, Alabama, and stopped fighting. Started back at about 2008 with another lemur friend of mine that moved down. Have been a lemur the entire time I've been fighting. Have not always been Technopop. Was like 1 year not Technopop, and then was a lemur, and from there on, nothing else.
Are you going to tell us your dead name, or is that's off limits?
I don't use that one. That's only when I'm in trouble.
Fair.
or my mother-in-law. She gets to use it, but she's special. Liz is an interesting individual. Anyway, fighting in Auburn, moved to Tuscaloosa, started some DAG there. We were all DAG back then. We didn't care. It was just a name. Back then we used DAG because Belegarth was Belegarth said you can only play Belegarth at one point in time back in the past. They didn't like. We were under the impression that they didn't want people being both parks, so we just didn't want to fill out paperwork. We're just lazy little, monster kids mostly. Tuscaloosa to Atlanta, where I started fighting with High Spires and Angus, the Blood Runner, and why do I always forget that guy's name? His real name is Eric Baker. His brother is. They both look like birds.
Angus is in Angus that is around now and wears a kilt.
No. This person has retired. The Blood Runners are long since lost to history. They used to run Ides of March, which was the large Southern event before Winter War started up. Before I started pushing Winter War, and we moved it to November, and I started running it. Let's see. I have notes as to when I started running Winter War. That's in here somewhere. Hold on.
While Tech's looking up notes, let's go to chat and see if we have any questions for Tech. All right, what's your notes say?
Started running Winter War sometime in 2000. It's not that important when I started. Ran it forever. Did not run it last year, first time. It went wonderfully. I'm very happy with the team that ran it. It is in very good hands. The future is bright for it. Next on my schedule is running battles a day at Geddon. I got Saturday this year, so
Oh yeah.
Everybody's going to be really tired and hate me. It's going to be great.
I'm so excited.
I have fought a whole bunch of different styles. After moving to Atlanta, I was knighted in Daggerhair, which I was a squire for like 2 years, but that was a whole nother weird story of not doing much and being handed a belt. And so I started doing respawns always, chat forever. If I don't run a respawn battle, check my temperature. Anyway, went to Ragnarok, went to the very last Ragnarok at Spring Valley, and then transferred to the Penzic site. And the second year I was at Penzic site, ran a day with Kodos, and Ari and Crow looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Like, where's this guy from? I'm like, hey, we're from Alabama and Georgia. Y'all don't know who we are. It's fine. We've been here forever. How you doing? And brought Southern hospitality up there and fucking ballistas. Then was asked formally to come back and run a day the year afterwards. And everybody remembers that day as a day that Rome left early because they didn't want to defend their city really. And they got pushed over, and then everybody had a blast.
Because Rome wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, that was the day that we ran. The year before we ran their battles. The year afterwards we ran my battles, which is when I instituted javelins, which was if 5 people put their hands on a spear where a marshal was, that marshal would take that spear and just walk in a straight line wherever they were pointing, and just death. You're attacking the castle. Here you go. The castle has 2 ballistas.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun.
That's fun.
Just black damage. People were like, that was nuts. They were just, and people were just dying everywhere. That was a really good day. Got knighted again in Winter War for Belegarth a few years, 2 years ago, and then now I am currently an apprentice to Warmaster Cord because I discovered that the western side of the country has an entire knighthood thing for monsters. So yeah, we'll walk that road. It's cool.
Heck yeah.
They asked to give it to me honorarily, and apparently one of my quotes is, "That's not how this works." So over 40, started a squireship.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
And Galin, thank you for the sword. It's the only sword I've ever held in Belegarth. It feels like an amp guard stick.
Oh, that new one.
Yes, I got one of your tournament sticks, and it is nice.
Heck yeah.
Atlanta hates it. They're like, you're not this fast. I'm like, oh yes, I am.
I am now, bitches. What's your favorite weapon combo?
I mean, I'm a spearman through and through, just because I like tactics, and spear lets me use tactics at a distance and pick and choose my targets easier, rather than just getting in the thick of it and having to kill people, because killing people doesn't win you the game, funnily enough. At least not if I design them. So Spear, single sword is fun because single sword is a cultural thing to me. It is our hello, it is our goodbye, it is our everything. You see people fighting single sword. Like if you go to a Dirtamarian event, that's where you can really see it. And the nightlife is when all of the people, at least Beltane, because it's Beltane and EQ and Dirtamarian, the only place I really see like families play single sword together, and like just pits where people come in and everybody judges like what tempo this person is fighting. And it is about winning slightly, but it's also just about the music, the dancing, and the fun of it. So single sword has a place in my heart for that. Other than that, I've used almost every damn thing in the book except for flail. I haven't used that a lot. So I'm having to use single sword for the next 6 months or so. That's fun.
What's that?
It's cool. The War Master.
Gotcha.
Apprentice. Chord set I have to. It's fun.
Fair enough. What are you in a unit?
I have been in Ravenous for my entire career.
Okay.
It is a unit that was founded in Auburn, Alabama, and then spread from there to Tennessee, and I am in Georgia. Currently, we are in Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and a few in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, a few in Florida. But we have always been Southern monsters. It's it, deep South.
Heck yeah. What is the most this is from Skiffy. What is your most memorable battle game or field battle or battle game that you've ever run? And then maybe a second question, what's the most memorable field battle or battle game that you've ever been in?
Let's see. Most memorable battle game I have ever been in is a very easy question because it changed how I think about battle games, and it was the Battle of Ballad Street at Greyglade. Greyglade is a small town in Anniston, Alabama, that used to hold a day battle every year, and it was one of the cleanest day battles because Greyglade themselves were these very strange, at least to me, and a lot of Southern Belegarth, because most Southern Belegarth are alt kids. I find up north there's a bigger patois of people as far as normal people, sporty people, etc. Down south, mostly alt kids, period. So Anniston was full of these nice Christian folks. But they set up a day battle where they took a tic-tac-toe board and then they broke it and connected it and put 2 spawns on each corner. And then you only had certain areas of egress and ingress to get through. And they played tic-tac-toe in timed rounds. If you could control these 3 squares, you got more points, but you spawned here. You couldn't go this way, but you could go this way. And you could go this way, and you could go this way. So that battle is etched in my mind forever because it literally changed how I write battle games. So I was like, oh, I can just use timed rounds, and y'all can fuck off. I don't have to worry about counting anything. Cool. Yeah. Most memorable battle I've run. Well, there's the Ragnarok one with the javelins, and that one ended with me walking around yelling, "Am I mean enough?" And most everybody there yelling, "Show enough." Which, if you know who Bruce Leroy is, we can be friends. If not, I'm gonna need you to up your game. And I wrote a city battle where there's a basic push the point concept of spawn at 1, fight over 2, spawn at 3, 2's captured, 3 moves backwards, fight over the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, taking that simple concept, build buildings across the terrain that you must move through and capture. And each building becomes your spawn point, so you have time to set up defenses inside each building, but each building is shaped differently. One's a V that you have to fight through, one's a fucking box, one's a long hallway with 2 open doors, but the spawns are constantly moving, the field is constantly mobile, and there's no other rules other than watch for the spawn to move, and all ropes are solid. And that is one of my favorite ones that I have run because everybody loved it. And it was really, really good. It was one of the battles in Eastwind that people fought and were like, oh, wow, we're coming back. It's something that people fought and made Winter War a thing.
Nice. Heck yeah.
One of the only Winter Wars I made it down to, I fought in one of those battles, and it was really freaking fun.
Thank you.
We were getting our butts handed to us, and then we got into like the triangle one, and then it was like me, Braun, Bell, and just Batman, and it was like, well,
and And it's like, we can hold this. Everybody else, don't let everybody get to us. Like, yeah.
Sporky Pop wants to know, how is a knight like a sword?
A knight is like a sword when he uses the clear sight of his vision to cut to the center of a problem for equity and equality for all. That is when a knight is like a sword.
Thank you.
Get it.
Sir Misty is saying that Techknowe's Vigil question series is the only thing that should be asked at a vigil. Tell us about that.
It is when is a knight like a sword, when is a knight like a shield, and when is a knight like a book.
This is the same thing. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, those are my 3 questions. The very last question is, what does any of this have to do with sword fighting? And I'm not going to tell you what my answers are.
Okay.
But those are my 3 questions, and I sit and discuss and talk because those are my 3 standard questions for a night trial. I will not fight you.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what I care about. Never have, never will. If you can swing a stick, good. You should be able to if you want to. If you want to do it better, cool. What I want to know is, do you do other things with your whole ass chest? Yep.
Nice. Did you once introduce Sagandis to the sport?
No, but I did introduce both of these.
Jeez. I don't know if we're actually asking questions or this is just meta in jokes.
The very first and maybe only mind goblin of the game.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a couple different types of goblins. You have the green ones, and I think there's maybe hat goblins, but they were a mind goblin. That's it.
What are your thoughts on mind goblins?
Mind goblin these nuts.
Oh, God. That's the episode, folks. I just. Oh, good God. I swan dove into that, and that's
Yeah, just
like Helen Keller in a revolving
leap of faith.
Oh God. Okay, let's talk field battles. What are the types? Well, first of all, what is a field battle? Galin, let's start with you.
A really big fight. I don't know. I would say it's where you get as many people as you can out on the field. It's got to be bigger than a practice, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, not that you don't do field battles at a practice, but like, I figured we're talking about like a real battle. There's at least. I mean, if 20 on a side is a lot for your local area, I mean that's your field battle. At least that's the best thing you can practice with. But I'd say 50 on the side, 100 people on the field. You actually have enough people to play with, like how many different weapons you have, what kind of effect that's going to have on the field. Enough people that you can't just instantly go around either side. A big fight. It's a field battle.
Tech, what do you think? What's a field battle?
Anything that requires like strategy, anything that fucker over there who's supposed to be on your team can make you die.
Okay.
Can do something that causes you to die. Anything that requires teamwork to do.
Okay.
That's one team versus another team. That is a field battle, a non-sparring 1v1 situation.
Horus, what's a field battle?
Field battle is a Belegarth. When you go out there and you're not just sparring, like you're fighting everyone. Everybody goes out there and fights. There might be 2 sides, there might be 4 sides, there might be a bunch of sides, but you're going out there and fight. Maybe there's a scenario, maybe there's not, but anything where everybody's out there, everybody's got a team, everybody's fighting each other. No matter if there's respawns, single death, whatever. That's a field battle.
I'm going to challenge all 3 of you. Is a ditch a field battle?
Yeah. It's not a scenario, but it's a field battle.
Yeah.
It's just a subgroup of field battle.
Fair enough. I would argue that a ditch is not a field battle.
Okay.
Personally.
I believe I've heard a little bit of your argument for this, but like,
I don't think you have. I've never made this argument before. I just decided this episode.
okay,
I don't think a ditch is a field battle. Because why do I feel that way? That's a good question, Charlie.
I would say because of lack of, to steel man you hear, lack of all the variants of equipment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for one, at least you're looking at no missiles, probably no armor
Yeah.
if we're talking to ditch. You know, it kind of lacks a strategy. Usually, you're not usually trying to turn an entire side and then like get to the flank of somebody in it.
Yeah.
You know, at least any good ditch I've been in, the point isn't to just go wreck 10 people from behind. You know, that's
I
not
wish that was the
fun.
case.
You got to earn it. You got to get your face-to-face kill, and then you can wreck 10 people from behind.
I mean, I guess those are what I would go with.
Yeah, this is a good point. I do think of like a field battle as like you're using the full rule set.
Yeah.
Like if you're fighting on a field battle and you're not using the full rule set, it's because you're fighting in a field that you can't use missiles or you can't use some kind of weapon, or it's like unsafe to use one of those things because it's raining, you know, and it's pouring rain. Nobody's shooting
but-
arrows.
Like generally, though, bell ditch lines are just pick up what you have and go fight. It's just two big group fights. Like at least the bell dag community. Whenever I go over to Amtgard, it's a little weirder because, as Sporky mentioned, it's kind of like a lineup 1v1 sort of. At least like on honeymoon, Shoppy and I went out to New Mexico. We went in El Paso with my brother Tank, and we went to the Amtgard field there and took a spear and stabbed, you know, that guy way over there. And that guy way over there was like, ugh, so rude. Why did you stab me? He looked at me like, what? Why did you hit me? I'm way over here. I'm like, buddy, you weren't looking at me. And Tank was like, oh yeah, don't do that. I was like, what?
My first Amtgard ditch down at like Banner War, I want to say it was somewhere in Texas, Spring War, Banner War, I don't know. Like, I'm like, wow, those guys are not looking. Like, and then I think it was Sponge was like, hey man, stop doing that. Start really putting here. So just fight him and then fight the next guy. All right, my bad.
I feel like the Amtgard ditch culture has taken over, like at least Geddon and Ockfest at night. Those ditches feel very Amtgardy.
Those ditches are supposed to be like that, though.
Yeah.
And I actually don't quite agree. I think some people are fighting like that, but lots of people love just running the line in those two.
That's fair. I mean,
So cool thing, we are
love it.
doubling the size of that field. Basically, like away from the fence. We're gonna take out that first campground there, or they're gonna take out. I'm not actually. As I say, I'm not part of Billy Creek. I'm actually wearing a staff shirt. So they're gonna like go that far that way again, and then one of the things we're thinking is maybe even having like a rope that you can pull between the two, and then like have two different kinds of knife fighting going on.
Oh, that's cool.
Whether it's like more just sparring or like different kinds of ditching or two different experience levels or like that kind of thing.
I don't understand why they don't just attach lights to the pavilion. Because there's a big flat grassy area right there, and the pavilion would provide a place for everybody to hang out and store their gear. I don't know why they don't just like get some clip-on
I think it
floodlights.
would deter some of their other things they do around there.
I don't.
Yeah.
Winter War being the perfect example where people hang out around that fighting pit, and that they're like that the ditch field becomes the center of the nightlife. Tanith can tell you. Like,
It's mostly a historical and wedding venue. So
okay. Yeah, we might
want to in that field out there.
That's fair.
Can't argue with that.
That is 100% don't want to fuck that grass up. When we will.
Guarantee.
That is a damn good reason. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
What I'm gonna wrangle us back on track here. What that's my job.
Good luck.
What are the different types of field battles? Let's we don't have to make an exhaustive list, but what are some of the major ones?
I guess we got to think about categories. Yeah.
What do you call in Belegarth line fights, where it's just two sides and you fight to death? Usually it's single death. usually in that kind of a line fight, you would not do respawns. But a variant on that that's very popular in Belegarth, like the timeless ones, are like realm and unit battles, where there are multiple sides because there's multiple. Everybody's in their realms or everybody's in their units, and they're all fighting to the death in a big field battle. And that's very similar to a line battle still, even though it's more dynamic in terms of how people move around. And then the other main one that you'd have is like a scenario battle, where you're playing not King of the Hill usually, but like Capture the Flag or a Monarch battle where you have to kill their king, or you have to kill their or capture their flag and bring it back to your base, or Ring the Bell is another popular one. You like go smack a shield a couple times and then it turns off their respawn. And those kind of scenario battles are generally the ones where you get some respawns in there. Those would be like the classics.
Tech, what do you think? You're shaking your head no a little bit. Or you might just be doing weird lemur things. I'm not sure.
Part of the time might just be beatboxing in my head, straight up. Truth. But Ring the Bell always gets somebody hit in the head. Always. Always. I stopped playing Ring the Bell after somebody got their bell rung.
How do people get hit in the head playing Ring the Bell? I believe you. I've never experienced that myself.
They will dive for it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see it.
That's just
yeah.
more life choices.
Like that's just, but still, like it's like, it's one of those weird things. Like, I don't play that just because it's kind of not safe. Like we used to play like Salad Bowl, where everybody tosses their weapons in the center, and then you run for the weapons. And I'm like, that's a bad one. That
was like Freeze's favorite
battle because that
game, and that was always
everybody headbutting each other, like that. But you're right; those are the classics. But
use salad and toss in the same sentence without it being dirty. I'm really proud of us.
I would say there's like single life line fights. There's objective battles, which I would call simple things like Capture the Flag, Monarch, Ring the Bell, and then there's scenario battles that usually involve like a longer thing, a time limit, and additional rules. Like,
yeah.
Of course, Capture the Flag is additional rules, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's classic.
It's not enough rules that you need.
It's one of those classic basic ones, yeah.
And like you could say Capture the Flag to like somebody off the street, and they'd be like, "Oh, I know, I understand," you know.
Yeah.
Ring the bell. Oh, there's a bell, and you have to ring it.
Yeah.
Like.
Mm-hmm. So the way I categorize games or scenarios, because in my head every scenario has extra rules and terrain. So in my head they're categorized by life tax, timer, and I used to categorize them by open or closed terrain, but here lately, almost the past couple years, I've started making mixed terrain maps, which everybody's fine with and loves. So that's not a category. So I only use, are we doing timed rounds? Or is it an objective, like a death tax or a turn off mechanic?
Mm-hmm.
Which one? So those are the only two categories I really think about whenever I'm thinking about what kind of scenario battles. Because like the two lines with single life, that's ditch. Realm, that's ditch with your friends. Like in my head. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
LV LaRue asks, how many fighters are required for it to be considered a field battle? Whoosh says 2, 1 if you're really high, but what's y'all's answers? 3. Why 3?
Many versus the few, 1 versus 2.
Okay.
That is a group one. You have one group versus one person. That is having to use tactics, having to use strategy, and having to do something other than, can I fake this dude out and stab him?
Okay. Galin, what do you think?
So I think in that scenario, you should just run a 2v1 drill, where you're swapping out every 5 or 3 fights or however you want to do it. But anyway, I think I said earlier 100, and I'm gonna stick kind of with that. Like, you know, like to really get like the feeling of the large field, I say about 100.
Well, that's a pretty big swing, 3 versus 100. Horus, what do you think? Go ahead.
So we're gonna get a moderate opinion next.
Now that I think, like technical in my head, it's like 6. When you got a 3v3 going, you're past like we're doing 2v2s where it's kind of like you and your buddy fighting, sparring, and like team sparring almost. 3v3s is when it starts to be like people are spreading out doing stuff. Like once you get to 4s, that's kind of like mini field battle. But like a real field where it feels like a field battle, I don't think you get until about 50 people. When there's 25 people on each team, then it starts to feel like it flows the way a field battle flows. And it's something that like I can sit here and describe, but you don't know until you do it. I see you saying 10v10, and I count the number of people at practice, and I'll tell you that like when there's about 20 to 40 people, it just feels like a practice. That's like there's like a certain way that it flows. There's a certain way that you kind of like know how it's going to work. When it gets to like 50 people, it becomes harder to determine how things are going to work out, and you start to like notice the people who are unbalancing fights like way like I guess in like 20 to 40 people, like you can tell like somebody will unbalance a fight horribly, and so like it doesn't feel like it's like a field because like basically you have to fix them some way by balancing, otherwise it's a problem. Whereas once you get to like 50 people, like one person's input isn't the same anymore. Like they might be doing stuff that's important, but like you can kind of, I don't know, it's different and it flows different. Like the fields like twist and toilet bowl more, and like the kind of team tactics start to matter a lot more. But that's just kind of, I feel like, yeah, 50. Then when you get to 100, that's the good stuff. That's why you go to events.
I feel like this is why we run a show together, because in my head I was like, yeah, 6 is the minimum. 3 that was what I was thinking too. But I agree that you know it has to be, you know, around 50 people, maybe 100, but at least 50. The individual contributors matter a lot less. You know, it starts being about like you know, about what is the team doing, or you know that kind of thing. Let's discuss loadout, roles, and team composition. Techknowe, let's kick this off with you. What is well, let's start with, let's see, how do we want to do this? Loadouts, roles, and team composition. I mean, we could just, you know, we could say, let's say, the way to look at this, we say, okay, a loadout, there are many different possibilities and angles for a loadout, right? What are some classic loadouts? No. How do we want to do this? What?
It's a percentage. If you're talking about like support versus, you know, if you think about it as main sword and board, and support everything else, which is the way a lot of people think. You then start to think about a percentage of how many of this do I want versus this do I want.
Yeah.
Because if, you know, you walk out there and you're a team of 10 and 5 of you all have spears, you can make it work, but you need to be good.
Yeah. But
the thing about Bell is that it's getting more and more to where every weapon can be a main loadout. Period. So it's more about, can you work with everybody at the same time when you talk about loadout, at least to me. But I don't know. I've always been, I used to be the scan everything and figure out what we need and try to use that for our team. But here lately, it's just been, use whatever you use. It's just, you need to be able to work together.
Okay. So I guess one thing as far as loadouts, let's think about it like this, right? Let's take sword and board, for example. How, as opposed to a tournament or sparring or a ditch, how is your sword and board loadout going to be different for a field battle? Or how should it be different?
Personally, if I'm going to run sword and board, the loadout's different in the brain, not in the equipment, because the loadout in the brain is, hey, I only need to kill people who are trying to actively kill me. What I need to do is keep this Pullman alive. Keep this person from having arrows shot at them as best as I can. Keep my head on a swivel, because I'm not a flanker. Not generally. Used to flank, don't run that much anymore. So it's more about helping people rather than trying to kill that person or taking pot shots. Or if I am the boardman, can I pump fake that way so the poleman can stab and communicate that to the poleman at the same time?
Okay.
Through body language and motion. Whatever I do, I'm all about trying to do it teamwork style.
Okay. So sword and board, in your opinion, for a field battle is actually maybe almost more of a support role than it is, than when you would typically consider like a support weapon.
If you are running things team based, so a lot of my problem with our older style games is that if you are a sword and board, you can be the star, because on Ring the Bell, if you're badass enough and you have a board and you can get in there, you can, like, that's where the idea of the sword and board is the ace loadout, is because things are easier. However, if you have to move a 50-pound box, you're going to need a group of people, and one person really good at sword and board that can kill a lot of people isn't going to help you very much. Four people who are very good at blocking and moving and keeping themselves alive while people around them kill around them will win you the battle.
Okay.
I try to build my games that way so that one person can't win the game.
Okay. Galin, what do you think? I mean, we could just look at loadouts, as a whole. I think it's a weird topic to juggle, and I don't want to. We could spend 2 hours talking about each individual loadout.
To build on this, then, I have the opposite philosophy of loadout and sword and board, especially for larger fights. I switch from punch shield to a strap shield.
Okay.
And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, it's heavier. It's a little bit harder to knock around. So it's going to be way better defense against poles. And honestly, it's going to be way better defense about even, like, somebody throws only half swing red shot with like a really light weapon. I've got a big heavy shield. Like, I didn't feel it, man. You've got that dynamic there. And even if it's not that kind of an issue, it's harder for it to be knocked around. It doesn't have that just this pivot point. I don't have to like specifically brace it or like punch into it. So you've got this, even if it's okay, my shield's going to die in 2 shots. Well, I'm going to die in 1 shot if I can't keep my shield in place when a glaive hits it. I also switched to a larger shield because nobody's close enough for me to throw anything too tricky most of the time. So I don't have to throw around my shield. You do have to throw around my shield still. I want better passive defense for that guy 3 guys down. I want better passive defense for 2 spears down. And then I am also protecting somebody very far back. As like far back as I can remember, it was like the thing that I think is more important is defense. It doesn't seem like anybody else realizes this. So my board has, until we break down to a certain number or till a side falls apart or something, I am a support weapon. Like, I've always thought I was the support weapon. Like, even back when red swords were heavy and sucked, I was the support weapon. Like, they're killing people. Like, my Numenorians are stabbing. Keg is shooting over my shoulder. If I live, we can win. Like, if the support weapons don't go down, I can live with having 45 assists and 0 kills for the fight. Like, why not?
Makes sense.
Like, so it does. My loadout changes in that sense. My loadout changes in the sense that I usually move to something longer. The more pulls, the longer the thing I move to. Because if I'm ever going to have a chance of getting an arm when they do something stupid or when they reach when they don't think I'm looking, like a good 40-inch sword, I stick to 36 to 38 usually, and 40 to 44s as a line. That's a line sword, or the occasional flail. But they come with their own slew of problems. It's really hard to block a red shot with a flail. So, but I think the loadout definitely, for me, the loadout always changes. And I mean, for the longest time, it's an SCA term, but there was warboards. Like, I've got a normal size strap heater that like I use sometimes even in small fighting, and then I've got one that's like 3 inches taller, just to get a little bit more leg protection, especially since I'm a taller dude. So I think it does change, and you'll see a lot of your red sword guys too. I mean, they've got something that's 6 inches, a foot, 2 foot longer for the big field.
So it seems like that, glaives, spears, red swords and stuff, they're all getting longer for field battles. Is that fairly agreed? In terms of
Or faster.
optimized.
Yeah.
You don't really see bows outside of field battles, so I don't really think there's any change there. Horus, what do you think about loadouts, especially around sword and board, stuff like that?
So I think that, just to follow up on that topic, I think that they used to be long, and then they got shorter as things got faster, and then
Okay.
they're getting long again because the tech is better, and so people can swing long light swords again, like more often again. But I think that your kind of basic loadouts in field battles are like, you have your people who are like linemen basically, who are going to have your longer swords, your bigger shields. They're probably more likely to wear armor. If you're using a flail, it's probably on the line because you can just like reach over and like fish hook people over and over. Then you're going to have, and those are your more like defensive oriented people. Like they might fight with like a really long weapon and be good at hitting people, but a lot of times they're just like pushing up on the line and then like trying to break through, or like push in general and just kind of like fight in that space. Like you're looking to hit people at angles and you're looking to protect and like cover for the next set of people. And the next set of people is more of your poles. And your poles don't necessarily have to be like an actual pole, like a red on a glaive, or a spear stabbing. But those are probably the two most common types, because having that range is very useful when you don't really have anything else to work with. You're not moving side to side. The bigger the amount of people there are, the more crunched you're going to be in the line. You're going to be standing next to someone. It's going to be easier to hide from arrows, but also like it's harder to see. You can only see so many people in front of you. And so those people are going to have spears, they're going to have glaives, sometimes they have a big red sword. They're also much more likely to wear armor, they're much more likely to be wearing a helmet. They don't need to move and run as fast because they're pushing and in the big grind in the center. And they're usually also toilet bowling because most people are right-handed. The person that is on the edge with their right hand can swing with impunity because there's no one that, unless there is a lefty in front of them, which usually there is, even if they kill a lefty, now they're swinging at that person's shield, they're less likely to get hit. So they're going to keep moving to the side to try to get around, and then the same thing's going to happen on the other side, and you toilet bowl. So those are your kind of two main people who are fighting the line, as your people that don't have shields, or maybe they have a little shield strapped to them and they have a two-handed weapon, and then you have your sword and boarders who are fighting. Your other people that are going to be fighting are your missile weapons. Now you have crossbows, but usually in the past it was just bows. These are people who are just shooting people. They are the natural enemy of the spear and pole people, because those people are not using shields and they just shoot them because there's nothing to block. That's the big advantage of having the shield, is not only does it passive defense, but you can actually just block missiles. And there are a lot of missiles, especially
We're using
now.
shields. Poles are using shields now. Yeah.
That's true.
My spear has a buckler loadout always. But yeah, and you're not wrong. We are still easier to shoot, but yeah, we be using shields.
Yeah. So those people though are, again, like, they're just staying back. They're getting kills for free essentially, and they're also shooting other archers. They're your kind of force multipliers. You can put more damage and more like attacks in one area by doing some of them from range. Some people also have javelins or little crossbows and stuff, but usually those people are not just throwing javelins or rocks or whatever. Those people are usually also sword and boarders, and that's like something that they're using to get a little range. They might have like a more normal weapon that they can't reach as far, like 34, 35. Then you do have the giant downstick red, like Joe Mick. There's all sorts of downstick people too, but that's kind of just another variation on sword and board. The final ones that you get are also can be sword and boarders, but this is more likely you're going to find like a smaller red, or you're going to find somebody who's two swording as your flankers. Now, some places don't really have, if you're fighting at Wolfpack Opener last weekend, you can't really flank. There's no edge. Like, the edge is the line where the field ends. But on a bigger field, like you're at Oktoberfest or something, it's easier to get around. You're more likely to have somebody who isn't necessarily armored, or they have very light armor or very little armor, and they might be fighting sword and board. Maybe they're fighting two sword. They just really, a lot of those people just like fighting one-on-ones, and they'll go to the field and just see how many people they can kill. that's where you're going to kind of get your flanker type person. They might run around totally. They might be one of those people that is still like, you know, this is the way they want to fight one person. They get their one kill and then they run the whole line and kill all the backs. Like, that was how I got my start. I was never big. I'm 5'8". I have kind of long arms for my size, but like I don't have reach compared to other people. I want to fight on the edge and then get in on the side and hit somebody at an angle and not have to straight up fight with the guy that's 6'5", has a big tower shield, a ton of armor, and a flail. He's just going to reach over me and hit me. So those are, in my mind, those are like the kind of, there's many different loadouts you can have, but the main kind of roles are like range damage dealer melee, range damage dealer missile, kind of sort of more tanky person melee, and then like flanker. And they can have all sorts of different kind of weapons. They tend towards different extremes. I mean, there's flankers that have super long swords, there's flankers that have armor, and there's people that fight in the middle of the line, like that's usually what I do now, with no armor, a punch shield, and a normal size sword. like it's fun, but those are how I envision.
Excellent breakdown. Mid breakdown, Techknowe was reaching to grab a drink right when Galin was grabbing something to eat, and it looked like you were passing Galin food for him to eat. It was fun. That's why I was like, I'm really trying hard not to laugh at that. Oh, it's a phenomenal breakdown. I feel like that boils it down, you know, as far as like, you know, what the composition of a team is, and then what the different types of fighters and roles are. Let's discuss tactics and strategy. LV, we're gonna save that question for later. That's a great question. So let's discuss tactics and strategy. And so when we, you know, specifically on this show, but also I think this is relatively true, when we talk about tactics, we're talking about what you as the individual can do. And then for strategy, we're going to talk about what should your side do? Like, what does the team do? You know, that's how I have been using tactics and strategy, specifically when it regards to Belegarth. So let's talk tactics. I'm in a field battle. Let's try to keep it as role and weapon set agnostic as possible, but you know, we can dip around depending upon what you're using. What am I doing? What's my objective? What's my strategy? What's my tactic, etc.? Galin, let's start with you.
I don't know. I think it does have to get a little weapon specific, because your damage dealers and your tanks obviously are doing different things. If you start in the back, you've got archers.
Mm-hmm.
An argument I have all the time with archers is who you should shoot.
Yes.
You, as much as you want to, you probably shouldn't be trying to shoot me. You should be shooting other archers. Because other archers are going to cut out, like, a boardman.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't matter how bad or good they are, you probably don't want to shoot at a boardman. At least not to start, and not without a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You should shoot other archers so that they can be doing less of this to you.
Okay.
You then should shoot poles, because they're an easier shot and they're a damage dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're not replaceable. Like, a lot of people aren't going to, like, you kind of, all your poles are fighting from the beginning. If you have extras, they're probably some flow guys or whoever, or some more shield people. It's not more poles. The poles are all picked their spot and are stabbing or swinging at somebody already. And then, if you see a fighter that you've got a good shot on, sure, take them out.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to make sure the other archers don't do it to you. You've got to make sure the poles stop dealing damage, and then you can worry about shielding them. Same thing with poles. Should be concentrating on other poles, or they should be doing cheap, easy, free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, sure, hack off a couple arms first or something, but by all means, don't kill them. Hack off their arms, hack their legs so they can't reach you, and then leave them there. There's nothing better for your team than a shieldman in the front line with no weapon that can swing back at your poles, that can't sword block that side, that can't hit the other shieldman. like leave them there or leg them and leave them. Like I love legging and leaving people. That's why I like group fights more. And then your shieldmen, like they're trying to do something a little too often, especially if they don't have a plan. Like it's good to come up with a plan. It's good to be able to force something, but mostly what you're doing is trying to stay alive and counter swing. Like you're gonna need your weapon to block. Like even if you have a bigger shield, like you've got lots of people you have to keep alive, and your shield is your only option to block an arrow that's going at this guy. So if my shield's got to go block this guy, like my sword's got to be blocking the other weapons that you don't swing. And then individually, like, or not individually, like, what does everybody need to be doing? Everybody needs to be not dying.
Okay.
You don't need to do something risky. You don't need to do something dumb. You don't need to go for it. The longer you stay alive and do the right thing, the more everybody is going to be accomplishing the stuff they're supposed to. More people will get shot. More people will get stabbed. More opportunities to go forward as a board man will open up when you've dropped all the poles in that area. I mean, the boardman can go with only dropping the poles. The archers can still be there. I've got a board, and my flow guy can run behind me, and then all of a sudden my flow guy's killing the archer. Like, I don't know. I mean, that. I feel like there's a lot. I'm gonna stop there for a second.
No, that was phenomenal. I mean, it kind of summed up how I feel. Tech, anything to add on to that? Any builds?
Outside in, yeah. I agree with the archers working at who can shoot you first, and then work from range. The one thing that I don't normally do, I will take free shots as a spearman, but I do not leg people often. And something that I am training my squire to do as an archer right now is to stop killing boardmen. My archer does not kill boardmen. My archer is allowed to kill a boardman if she takes 3 sword arms. My archer aims for your sword arms.
Interesting.
I aim for your sword arm. If I take your sword arm and then I take a leg, I am morally defeating you, and you will want to die just to get off your knees. I don't want that. I don't want you walking the treadmill. I want you standing in front of me with no arm, thinking that you're useful for as long as I can do that. And then once my entire team realizes, oh, they don't have arms, we then gently walk over you. There's no charging. There's no hurrah. No, that's like Galin said. You're doing too much. Calm down. Stay alive.
Once they don't have arms, well, then you can just step in between 2 shield men and the pole cannon. So that's when you go as a swordman. When you have 2 giant bodies with armor on blocking either side of you that can't hit you.
You soften them up and then push them over. Stop. Like, killing people is not the way to win the game. It's not going to win the game. It's just going to replace that person in front of you with another healthy body.
Horus, what do you think? Any builds on any of that?
Yeah. So I think that everybody's brought up really good points, and I think I just want to... The way that I think about field battles is that I think of them in terms of because there are like little tactics that you can do, and I'll describe some of them, but the main strategy is, how do I make sure that my team does something catastrophic to their team? Sometimes you don't need to win that way, and you can just attrit them down because they'll just die to your archers and your spears. But if you're ever in a situation where you don't have the advantage because your team's not just going to win on skill, and you're outnumbered or something of that nature, and you want to influence the battlefield as someone who is not the damage dealer, say you're a sword and border who doesn't have any armor and isn't going to walk up to and just block everything and kill everyone. I want to always do something that causes the maximum amount of damage and chaos on their team. Specifically, I want to cause chaos if my team is losing, because if there's chaos and my team is losing, then everybody is very confused. But that is a great spot to be in when you're already at disadvantage, because you can take advantage of that just as well as they can. Whereas if no one is confused, your team will slowly bleed out and die. If I'm going to do something catastrophic, I don't want to ever die for nothing. Sometimes your job is to die for your team. That's your job. And people don't like to do that. And so a lot of times their team loses fights that they should win because they don't want to be the first one in the breach, even though they're a sword and border and they have a bunch of spears or people that don't have shields. And nobody's brave enough to just be the first one in to jump on all their swords, get hit, and then have their entire team overwhelm them. So what I always look for is that guy who's holding too much of the line that he shouldn't be, and then I can kill that guy. Or sometimes I don't even kill that guy, I just run up and push him over, or push him into his team. And now he was standing right here, and there's 5 guys over here, and there's 3 guys over here. But now he's pushed into 5 guys, and now there's 6 guys right here, and there's 3 guys over here, and they're separated. And you could, run around and fight or whatever, or you could just run into these 6 guys on the side, and now the 5 guys that were fighting them are really like fighting like 2 guys because these 4 guys are all staring at you and like, what the hell is going on? Like trying to fight, and I don't need to kill them. I just need to be fighting them in their face, and my team's just going to slaughter them because they're not paying attention anymore. So that's like catastrophic, right? They have 3 guys over here. We win. Maybe they kill 1 person because one of them's really good at sword fighting. He takes 1 guy out when they come in. Now I have 5 guys and 3 guys still, and they have 3 guys. So I have 8 versus 3. I won the game for my team. I didn't kill anyone. They did all the kills. All I did was push 1 guy into his team and then like fought them, even though I didn't kill anyone. And so that can work. You can find that got 1 guy, break through, kill a bunch of people in the back. That sometimes works. People love doing that. You feel like a hero. Your kill count's really high. People love counting their kill count. You can be the spear that's smashing everybody, but the main things are to do something catastrophic. And then when you can't do something catastrophic, you're always trying to find a firepower advantage, at least in the moment, over the other team. And so the best ways to do that are to create pockets where they walk into the pocket, because if you're in a line, right, you have two lines and they're fighting evenly, everybody has the ability to hit each other at the same time. But if their line starts to bow in, right, because you're pushing on their edges, the team, this is not a very good way to do this, but the team that is fighting into the pocket can be hit by more of the enemies than the team that's pushing in. So if you can find a spot to basically push in on them where you can't be hit, you can create that pocket yourself, even if it's for a moment. Say that guy's distracted, I can step over, hit a guy, and then step back on a corner. That's why you're always looking in the corner of your eye to hit the guy over here or the guy over there, is because you want to fight to the corners. And so if you let somebody walk in a little bit, you can take advantage of that, or you can even push in yourself and kind of cause that same thing. And it also, that strength of their line, you can like test that on a big field. You're at Wolfpack, you're not going to like walk in the line by yourself and cause that bubble to happen. Like, people are going to kill you. But on a bigger field, maybe you're at Oktoberfest or Battle for the Ring or something, you could absolutely do that. Then where is it going to go with this?
Pocket chaos, catastrophic.
Pocket chaos, all sorts of things you can do like that. You can fight people on the sides. No, I lost my next one. But oh no, I remember. The other thing to remember is when you are fighting. So I'm right-handed. Most people are right-handed. This works the opposite way. You just have to think about it mirrored if you're left-handed. But if I am right-handed, it is always advantageous for me to move to my right-hand side, because it is constantly moving away from their threat here, their shoulder socket, that they can reach me, and keeping my shield, if I'm sword and board, most people are fighting sword and board, not necessarily everyone, but even if they have a spear, I'm putting my shield in between them. So if I'm running around on a flank, or I'm running into the side of them trying to create that pocket, I always want to be moving to my right, because it's putting their sword further away from me. This is really important, especially in a big field battle, because leg 'em and leave 'em is awesome. If you can leg them and they can't do anything back to you, then you get hits for free, and then your spears eat them alive, your archers eat them alive, or you just leave them and you go kill their team. If
You're also
I
moving
am
their
walking,
missiles that way too. Like you've got this
yeah,
whole wall blocking off their missiles.
exactly. So if you're gonna like flank into their line and try to run down their missiles, you don't want to run in the area where they can shoot you in the side and your shield's blocking nothing. You want to be blocking them. So you always want your shield in between the biggest mass of them. And then if there's one guy over here, maybe you can like fight him with your sword and kill him. Hopefully he's bad and you can just kill him, or you can move past him. And so you always want to be moving kind of with that in mind. And so the best gaps that you can find in their line too to get through and do something catastrophic are ones where your sword arm is going to be not threatened. Even if it's a small gap, if you just need to move through for a second, if your shield is in the way of where they're going to be swinging, you might be able to push through that. And if they don't decide, if say they all decide that they want to swing up, because I blocked my legs when I moved in and then they all swing up, I block and then I step right through their line, that's killer, because now I'm behind them. And again, I don't need to kill them. They're all just turning around.
Just turning and being like, ah.
Yeah, and even if I die, as long as I take a while to die, it creates an advantage for my team. And probably if I get through like that, I'm just don't stop running if you're a flanker either. Never stop to like hit people in the back. Just keep running. Leave some of them. Your team will clean them up. Just never stop running, because there's someone chasing you and they will catch up with you. If you don't stop running, they'll never catch up with you. You're safe unless they're like really fast. But even when I catch up with people like that, it's infuriating. It takes way longer if they never stop running. If you stop running, they'll hit you. Also,
see, I think that's where you get into the strategy of it versus the tactics, because that's your tactic, and then my strategy is that every 5 to 10 people, there's another board or a Florentine guy that's just behind the line. He's looking to call stuff. He is waiting for somebody to come through. You're like, "Ha, I'm through and I'm turning." And in theory, there should be a guy that's 2 steps hit you.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And if you really are doing it right, then
it's John. If you're doing it right,
blind people know to not turn around.
Yeah.
Like either it's going to work like it's supposed to, and they're going to get them, and I'm not going to turn around and lose the entire fight, or it's not going to work how it's supposed to, and then it didn't work how it's supposed to. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Which I guess to jump back around then, like with the what does everybody need to be doing? Well, everybody needs to be doing their job. Everybody needs to be communicating. Everybody needs to be watching to their left and right.
Before we jump into strategy, I want to throw my thing that I love doing that I focus on in field battles and whatnot, especially when I'm shooting and arching. That this is like my go-to is killing momentum. So like looking at the other team, and if there's one guy that's kind of leading the charge, or like, you know, one person that's like just devastating with a polearm or something, that guy's got to go. Like you put them down so that the momentum, you know, because if that momentum starts to build on the other team, right, and like people, you know, people start like following this person, or like it starts building a breakthrough or something. If you put that person down like a dog or a lemur, then they will sorry, I couldn't resist. If you put that person down, then all of a sudden that momentum stops. It, you know, and it could shift, and you know, not only is that person not getting kills anymore, but then, you know, you might be able to reverse that whole track and stop that breakthrough and stuff like that.
I don't know if this applies to a lot of Amp Guard large fights, but if you're not doing it in Bell, you need to start doing it now, and it's the same thing. If a motherfucker's calling out orders, shoot him in the mouth.
Yeah.
I'm not typically targeting the head, but if somebody is calling out directions, shoot them in the mouth. One, you've cut off their leadership, unless they're yelling out like bad ideas, but you've cut off their leadership and you totally demoralize them, because everybody's going to notice that. Somebody's going to laugh. Like, it's just the best way to
landing an arrow in someone's mouth and they're like, "Ugh!" and it like sticks there. That'd be incredible.
Also, it's like you can shot on your new helmet, you know, just. Psh.
You can try to get me to go down, but you're probably not big enough to clear my smoker's cough, so it's fine.
Fair enough. Let's talk strategy. What should a team be doing?
just one point on the
Mhm.
strategy. If you have a strategy, you should tell everyone, because no one can read your mind. If you fought with people long enough, they might be able to read your mind. They're not reading your mind, they're reading your body language. But it feels the same way. But if you're fighting with randoms, you're all just going to stand there and be like, I don't know what to do. Unless you're really good at the body language of, I'm going to fucking kill everyone and you should all follow me, which most people aren't. So just tell them, hey, let's go here and kill these guys and lead them. Now, remember, every time you open your mouth, everyone's going to shoot you in the mouth. So if you're a leader, it's a really good idea to be fighting sword and board, or just have a shield of some sort so you can block every time they try to shoot you when you're yelling orders at people. Also, stand behind another shieldman. It's harder to shoot you when you're yelling orders, but yell orders. Also, people are really, really much better at fighting, especially people who are not like super veteran fighters, if you're just telling them what to do, because they don't have to think about what they're supposed to be doing. You're just like, kill that guy, kill him dead, leg him, leave him, do whatever. If you ever watched Numenor fight in a field battle, we win not only because there's a bunch of us that are vets, not only because we have all practiced and done this a lot and have an idea of what we're doing, but because there's somebody fucking yelling at you all the time telling you what to do. You don't have to think new person.
Have people giving orders.
Yeah. What do? I tell you, fuck that guy up. Come back over here. Don't die. Just stay alive. Do this, do that. Protect this spear. When they rush up, knock him down. Don't worry about killing him. Like, yell. Talk to people. Use your voice. That's a big part of having a coherent strategy, is having leadership and people, and like you're not going to have like a command structure. Like, I know Dragoth does this, but they're probably the only ones where there's like actual leaders telling people what to do, and there's like, you know, who's which leader of which. But like, have people who are competent enough to like be sort of that leadership in the moment. You have your couple of people that are around you, tell them what to do.
Tech, you got something to add?
Yeah, without somebody yelling orders at you, organically, we're about making friends. So if there's a respawn point, the person that just died with you, start talking it out.
Mm-hmm.
If you brought a couple of friends, talk with your friends. And something Ravenous does is we will have certain days where it's, hey, you don't spawn alone. Don't spawn alone. If you're on a field of 100, it's not going to matter when you spawn by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wait for your 5 friends and you're number 1 of 5 waiting on your 5 buddies, you start looking at the field. All right, where do we want to go? You start thinking about, what can we do? The 5 of you get together, make your plan at spawn, go. Because if it's a 100-person field, the 5 of you taking 5 minutes to catch your breath and make a plan and try to stick to that plan all day. Just a simple plan of, hey, we're going to take this left side all day long. And we're going to hold it and try to push through all day long. Make a simple plan, stick with it, but wait for your friends so that you're not relying on those randos. You're relying on somebody you've already talked to. If you don't have any friends, pick a rando that looks just as scared as you are and decide, hey, we're battle buddies for the day.
Makes sense.
If you don't like that person, swap.
A helpful thing for if you're shouting out orders and telling people what to do, say it 3 times. There's this weird human interaction thing that happens where if you yell something at someone 3 times, they just start doing it. So you could just be like, push, push, push. They just start pushing, you know. Kill that guy, kill that guy, kill that guy. Oh, okay, I'm killing that guy. Like, they just don't think about it, they just do. It's just the thing that happens. And, you know, if you just say things, if you say it 1 time, then, you know, it might be like, people will be like, huh, what am I, you know, but if you say it 3 times, the first time you shout it, it gets their attention. The second time you shout it, they're listening. The third time is like, it just turns off their off button and they just go into it, you know?
It's like a tiny essay. Tell them what you're going to tell them.
Yeah.
Tell them what you told them.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's sports.
That's so good. I never thought of that.
Skiffy's point is, look them in the eye and point at them, because so many people are in the
Yes.
zone and can't hear what you're saying, or are wearing a helmet and can't hear what you're saying. I can't hear
Amp-Guard's brilliant for this, because in Amp-Guard, people yell descriptors, so you get used to, like, by the end of the day in Amp-Guard, I am Purple Warrior. So my team, if they don't know my name, they're like, Purple Warrior with the stabby thing. And I'm like, oh, they mean me.
Fair enough.
Got a shield too, bump them. don't be like going around. I mean, if you know them, you can grab people's armor and shoulders and stuff, but like you might freak people out, so don't do that. But if you have a shield, like just bump, like push them a little bit, be like, hey, you, like people will turn around, and then you're not like invading their space too much.
Fair enough.
I don't know. In the height of me yelling orders at people, I would grab shoulders and slap backs and like, you got this.
You gotta know your audience with that one, but like usually you can do that, and it's fine.
I can give you the best use of tactics in a field fight ever.
What's that?
Yeah.
So it was before I moved to Numenor, and it was at like a spring war or summer war because I used to run everything. And it got so bad that we had to do everybody versus Numenor. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to fall back into this bridge area, and they won't be able to beat us. Like, you know, we only need 6 people across, so we got poles, we got missiles. And I'm like, crap, we're not going to beat them. Like, there's too many good fighters there. There's not enough good fighters out here. Wait a second. Hey, man, you can win us this fight. Take this red sword and go break their shields. Slap them on the back. That person runs in. They get 1 red hit. They die. Hey, you can take this red sword. You can win us the fight. Go! And I sent like 40 noobs into that bridge. And when we rolled up with our 5 good fighters, their 5 good fighters had no shields left.
Hell yeah.
And they're like, what the hell? And we killed them, and they're like, well, that sucked. We wouldn't have lost those shields. And I was like, hey, Kate, I gotta tell you something. Come here, this is hilarious. You're gonna love this.
That's amazing.
And every single one of those, I was like, you can win us this fight. Go kill like 3 shields. Yes, you got the one.
Hell yeah.
That's all we need. Go.
Now, something that I'm going to pick on Whoosh. I love picking on Whoosh during the show. Whoosh says, you know, barking orders at me on the field is a surefire way to make me dislike someone. But I swear, every time there's a field battle, people are always yelling at Whoosh and telling him what to do. And he's like, oh, okay. And he goes and does it. It's like every field battle.
Welcome to Numenor. That's what we do.
Fair enough.
I mean, the more you communicate, the more plans, the more people you have calling out stuff. I mean, that's another good thing the archers are good for, because they can see more, and they're a little bit harder to shoot in the mouth. I mean, they should already be looking to not be shot by the other archers. And then your closer people are making smaller calls. And if you, like Horus was talking about earlier, or like getting 5 people together to do something, if you give 5 people a job, then it's a we thing. Like, we are going to hold this, we are going to do this. And then it can win or lose, like, especially it's like, well, you guys held the thing. You guys got the pole arm. You guys did the thing you were trying to do. You get a small team victory. You're building morale, all that kind of stuff. Like,
we did our shit. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, most large field fights, they're won or lost a lot of times in the making the teams.
Yeah.
Which is like a really hard thing to do with like some kind of big war scenario where you're like doing something all week. Like, well, you won the recruiting phase, and now you're just gonna win the rest.
Yep.
But you know, if there's small victories you can get, you know, like, we're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. Like, the only thing, Horus is gonna come running up and make sure he dies. He is actually vulnerable for that second he bashes your buddy, so you make sure you kill him while he's bashing your buddy, not afterwards.
Fun talk. I did that to PPQ at Gedden last year for one whole battle.
Knocked him over?
No, we were just like, no, Peter's not flanking us. Let's go.
Okay.
I distinctly remember us being face to face and then being like, why is this spearman in my face?
Want to watch the
Also,
chat
just
blow
like-
up? Oh, go ahead.
If you're gonna like, you always want to not die, so it's usually better to defend and to trit them. But if you are gonna do a thing, like, get a friend or 5 and like all commit. Like, if you're gonna go do the thing where you go fight, like, don't half-ass it. You're just gonna die. They're gonna get their bearings. They're gonna figure it out. If you go hard, like, and just go for it, and even if you say you're trying to break through, one guy's got to make it. Like, if one guy makes it, he's gonna kill a ton of people, hitting backs or killing archers and stuff. So if 4 of you run in, like, go fight. Even if 3 of you die and only 1 beats their person or 1 survives fighting their person, like, you still made it through, and then there's 2 guys back there and 1's killing them.
The aforementioned blood runners there were 5 of them usually. They would have different ways they would bash lines. One of them they called the Shyster injection. They would all line up on the left side, line up together. The front person holds their shield forward. Everybody else faces their shield to their right, and they lock them, and they would just charge straight along the line of a bridge and bash straight through that one and turn. Like, because they would just build an L of shields and just straight through.
Wow.
It was interesting. Like, if you make a plan and stick to it and don't half-ass it, it can work, even if it's something as dumb as the Shyster injection.
The Shyster.
So then you got to build on the plan, and you got to do some other things, like whether it's 5 people talking at the regen, or if it's the people that died early in a single life fight, watching the field, figuring out what the heck's happening, and talking between the fight.
Who's the big fish?
One of the easiest thing is, where are we pushing? You guys are the ones pushing. Well, then what are we doing on the other side, which is the side I like to live on, which is okay, well, we're on the side that they're trying to push. We're not trying to win. We're trying to die as slow as possible. Like, if we could live for 2 minutes, we will probably win this fight. Because I'm trusting the other flank to be doing what they're doing, or the weak middle to be exploited. And we are going to stand in front of the best people on the other team. They're people that are currently trying to do this, knowing they're trying to do it, and knowing that we're not trying to win. We're not trying to get through them. We're not trying to get behind them. All we're trying to do is not throw off the line, so not back up too much while dying as slowly as humanly possible.
Yeah. And you create that natural pocket too, where they push into you, and if you don't die and you just like keep bending forever, they end up getting hit from the flank anyway, just because they extend too far, because all their strongest people will be all on the edge, so their weaker people will start getting strung out, and you'll create more opportunities for your team on top of it.
So then you tell your flankers on that side to not be trying to get around. What you're trying to do is, when we do finally fall back, and then they have those like, oh, I'm going to kill all these guys that are about to go behind. No. That's what we did with our backups. And we're just waiting to fill random holes. So you've got your attacker, and then you've got your place you're trying to hold, and then you've got your people that are responding to those things. And you should be talking about that either every regen, or every round, or every time you die, waiting to res again in the single life. And if you're somebody that like really likes fighting in the single life, another good thing about single life, between rocking strategy, but if you really like to fight, step off to the side and spar. Like, that's probably more what you're looking for anyway.
Or if you're with your buddies in the single life and you're sitting there dead, look at who's still alive and decide that guy doesn't get to live until the last round. That dude's killing a lot of people. We should kill that guy.
Or that guy's always waiting there till after the end, so we got to watch, He got us when we broke through, and he didn't even do anything. He didn't even step on the line. He's still back there. That's what he's doing this fight. Or like, why don't we have any poles over here? Oh, they're getting shot every single time. Well, we need to get some better. Rather need to swap for some poles that have better arm shields instead of back shields, or we need to bring over some like wide fighters that maybe aren't what we thought was the best thing for over here, but they're really good at keeping their poles alive.
Or just another archer. Shoot some of their archers.
Before we move on to running, heralding, and designing, I want to do an experiment and see if I can blow the chat up real quick. Let's try it. Dunland. All right, let's see if that blows the chat up. Let's talk about running, heralding, and designing field battles. Who wants to take the lead on this one?
You've got like the best designer of field battles in the world here.
It was a rhetorical question. Tech, take us away.
Oh, fuck off. All right. So, designing field battles. You have different sizes. You've got your Sunday practices, and you've got your day battles, and that is anywhere up to 75 people. And then you've got what I think of as your regional battles or national events. Regional battles are around 500 to 800. National events are 800 and over, because I find that, like, when you were talking earlier about when it starts to feel like a field, in my brain it always feels like a field, but there are different levels of field. You know what I mean? And I get what you're saying of getting lost in the morass of what's going on. And that's why I explain to new people that, like, Sunday practice is us playing like tag football in our backyard. The real sport is when you can't find your friends amongst the hundreds. So game design starts with objectives. How do you want the game to end first? Decide that. The simplest way is via timer, and you have a marshal with a clicker who's just going to count up who dies the most. That's what we're doing again this year. I'm going to set up some terrain, and we're going to play who dies more.
Whoa.
However, there's going to be things that you interact with on the terrain that can get you more kills. Remember when I said something about the ballista? There's going to be mechanics like that will just kill swaths of the enemy, that it's worth getting that mechanic. So once you decide how the game's going to end, you then decide what kind of terrain. A lot of people start with terrain, but I don't usually do that because the objective is what's going to be fought over. And it's what's going to make the game last and what's going to make it move more than anything. The terrain is just there to make the objective move slower. Or unless the terrain is the objective, which is another option, like that tic-tac-toe board I mentioned earlier. So how do we want the game to end? What are we fighting over? Are we fighting over a place, or are we fighting over an object? Does the object move? How does it move? And what kind of terrain do we have? Normally it's walls. Sometimes it can be water. I would really like to codify a terrain for Belegarth because I've been thinking about a couple of different things. We've experimented with bamboo thickets before. Just an area with green soccer cones, and you can only stab in there. Stab only. But the trick is that players are going to kick them around, and as they get kicked around, the bamboo gets cut down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we call like the spice level for battle gaming. But you start with your map with your objective on it, and then the biggest process is handing that map and that objective to everyone that you know who is a fucking rules lawyer, and having them cheat it and rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it. And you don't have to be crazy with it. Last time I ran Winter War, I drew one map for the day and played 3 games on it. They were 3 totally different games, but if I drew one map and we played 3 games on it, everybody kind of familiarized themselves with it over the day and made pockets that they liked.
That's a great idea.
It became kind of like, because I started thinking, what is the beauty of Summoner's Rift in League? And it's that you know it, that you know where that pocket, you've been on it all day, and you can exploit it to greater advantage. But if you play on different maps every time, there's always going to be a disjointedness for every game. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to set up multiple maps, I always suggest trying to set up maps that transform into each other. For instance, you start with just a bridge, and then all of a sudden next you fold the edges in, and there's a box, and you play King of the Hill with the box now instead of just having a bridge battle. Maybe the objective for the bridge battle was to get X amount of fighters to the opposite side. And now you're playing King of the Hill, and it's gone from being a bridge battle to an open field battle with a box in the middle that you're trying to hold, and you can flank around. But giving it to people to break and think how they would play on it is the best thing you can ever do for any game. So many battle games, I talk to people after they write them. I'm like, so, what'd you do? And they're like, well, I just drew it up and just did it. Well, don't do that. Draw it up, give it to somebody else, and then try it out. Like, have a muster, or have like a large day event that you try these out on, and make them in small form, and then try them big. But it's not everything that works small is going to work big. And that's just a trial and error. I really can't tell you how to dial that in, honestly, other than don't make it so complicated. I try to only have 3 things that my fighters need to know to play the game. That's it. 3 things, because longer than 5 minutes, you've lost everybody. My marshals, however, will have a list of every rule of the game, and they will know it backwards to front, because that is their job. Their job is to be able to quickly communicate exactly what the player needs to know on a moment's notice.
I want to expand on that, keeping it simple in the 3 things rule, because that's gorgeous. I love that. I had a friend that when they first played Amtgard for the first time, this is a long time ago, they came from another LARP. And so I had them write a little quest, for people to do. And at the end of the day, she comes to me and she says, okay, something I learned today, Amtgarders only remember the last thing you tell them. And I was like, that's so true. So if you just tell them one thing, they'll remember the one thing. And so the simpler your game is, the more effective it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is having your marshals know the rules backwards and forwards. I'll give you an example. There's a concept that Sporky invented, golems. So the golem activates with 3 coins. Okay. The coins are heavy and complicated. So you have to have 2 free hands and walk. Those are the only rules the players have to know. They don't have to know that the golem takes 3 coins. They don't have to know that the golem's going to activate and kill everybody over there. All they have to know is, hey, this is how I get the coin to the golem. You don't have to tell them all that. They can discover it as they play if they care. Because if you build the battle well enough, people that care about the coins will go get the coins and take it to the golem. The people that give no fucks are going to go over here and kill people with their friends. Mm-hmm. That's why I say a mixed terrain is better. You give people an area where they can go do what they want. I also always think about my partner. My husband plays, but she is a spearman as well, but she will never be in a tournament. You probably have never met her. Unless you come to camp, you probably won't. But she plays all day long because she loves being part of a team. She has gone to a Dirty Marion battle and walked outside. I think she got some sort of like crowd award because the amount of arrows she brought back to Shiro made him go, how are you doing this? Because she's a librarian. So she enacted librarian walk and went outside the castle and got objectives and arrows and brought them back in just by being unnoticeable. Mm-hmm. So giving those players something to play with, but all they have to know is how to carry it. That's it. They don't have to know what it does. They're going to want to know what it does. They can discover that. So you don't need to tell them those rules. Only tell them what they need to know to play the game.
I love it.
Let's talk about running a game, like being the main herald or the person with the clipboard and the megaphone and stuff. Let's say somebody's taking a shot at that. What do they need to know?
Firstly, decide how you want to do it. There's a couple different styles. Sporky and I are both kind of ringleaders, circus leaders. We will talk smack while we marshal, but that's to remind you that we're there, so we're always watching. I've even been known to pick up, if there's a rock that looks like an eyeball, I'll pick it up. I always feel like Techknowe is watching me. And then I'll throw it at somebody because I'm still dangerous. I'm the marshal. It doesn't matter. My weapons still count. Mm-hmm. Watch out. Chaos. Have fun. Or Sporky's unit mate and my dear friend Dupir, they run games like a head chef. These are what we're going to do. And they will smack talk every now and then interact, but mostly they are pulling the strings and keeping everything in line. So decide what kind of leadership you want to have and then stick to it. But then also build your team. Walk on marshaling is horrible. Mm-hmm. You think fighting with a random person is horrible. Trust some other random person to help you run something you spent 6 months designing on your back porch and they know nothing about. So build your team from the ground up months before and discuss how everything goes. Build your roles. I have a few different roles I use depending upon how much terrain is in the game. I have head marshal, me or a peer usually. And then you have field marshals who roam, but they have a certain area that I have them roam. And their job is to answer rules questions, watch for safety, which everybody's job is, and watch for... You don't watch for cheaters. You listen for problems and think there may be a cheater over there. You don't watch for cheaters. The game is an honor-based game that will take care of itself. You just watch for things that are getting out of hand. A lot of marshals try to watch for rules all the time, which means the game doesn't run well. Let people play the game because you're supposed to follow the rules. So let that flow. And then I'll have terrain marshals sometimes. Marshals whose job is to just, my brother Boomy, I give him a tower shield. He's now a wall. He will patrol the wall, and he will bash you. Like if you run into Boomy and bounce off, you died because you should have walked out of that wall. But his job is just to mind those walls. And then lastly, I'll have spawn marshals who are more important than almost every one of them because they watch out for the team's health. They watch out for people who are overheating, etc. And then I'll have objective marshals who their job is solely, you are the dude who says, hey, point, no point. And your word is law. And on the subject of points, make it really easy or really hard. No middle ground. No middle ground. Like if there's a box, either A, they need a whole body in that box live, or B, anything crossing that line counts. One of the two. No middle ground. Like even a dead body crossing that line, because what's going to happen is the team will just move farther out to guard that really hard line. Your edges need to be either A, hey, you remind them to step back in, or B, you're dead. If it's B, you're dead always, there's a marshal there for it. Hardest part is going to be measuring and walking. Mm-hmm. Know what your map looks like, but also know what your pace is. Like measure how far 10, 20 feet is in your own steps, naturally. Don't think about it. Just measure it out or walk it and try to figure out exactly or about how many paces equals X amount of feet, so that when you're making a map, you can walk that and know it. And know when you turn your corners, and don't work with circles. Circles suck.
We got about 10 minutes left, so I want to touch on.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
you
no,
said
you're,
game
no, you're
design.
fine. It's my job to jump in when it's time.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I want to talk about heralding. So let's say I'm given a herald tablet. I walk onto the field. I've been fighting for a few years. I kind of know my stuff, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to help herald this field battle." And I'm like, "Me? Okay. What do I need to know? What do I need to do?"
Crash course. Number one, I've got a YouTube video that's an hour long on this. No problem. I don't know how to link it, but anyway, you need to be a lamb. A loud, attentive, mobile bouncer. You need to be loud so people know you're there. You need to be attentive, pay attention. You need to be, your attention needs to be your eyes, but it needs to be your ears more, because more you're going to hear a problem before you see it. You need to be mobile, constantly move. Mm-hmm. Unless you are specifically supposed to be in this spot, you need to move. You need to be looking down center line where no man's land is. Or if you have a flanking position, you need to just be floating and looking around if you're in the open field and watching for people like running into each other and smashing their heads together, because that's what happens out there. If I'm thinking about the Dirtamarian field, talking to Galin, like if you are near the baseball or the cabin, you're watching that big area, but when you're in the middle, you need to be looking down no man's land. And bouncer, always capable of going, hey, you need to sit down. Mm-hmm. It's time for you to sit down. And if they don't listen, you go get somebody else. You don't get louder. You stay calm. Mm-hmm. You de-escalate and you go get help if you're not comfortable. Mm-hmm. You go say, head marshal, the first day I was on the Ragnarok field, somebody almost punched somebody, and I was like, nope, you're coming with me. You're both out. I don't know what happened. I don't know either one of you. You're both going to Yari. You are not my problem. Let's go. If you are on field and you are wearing yellow, those people who are getting into a fight, they are not your problem immediately. You need to get them off the field to whoever problem they are. Stopping that fight right now, that's the problem. Or calling for a medic, that's the problem. After that, get back to your job and let the people whose job it is do that. Get everybody out of their way when something goes wrong like that. That's your job, is to get the fighters out of the way. There's other people whose job that is. It should not be your job to handle that if you are the field marshal or walk-on.
Yeah.
Don't wear too big a hat, basically.
Do not try to stop two people fighting or like in the middle of a thing. Just if somebody's not listening to you, go find a head marshal or somebody else. Go get a bunch of reinforcements. Like, it's not worth it. They're still not going to listen to you. They're still not going to respect you. Go get people. They're idiots who are going to get thrown out of the event because they couldn't listen to the marshal.
If not, the other way I have dealt with that, whenever somebody didn't listen to me, was just going, that person is dead. Don't take anything they throw. None of their shots count. They're not playing. They're dead. No.
We don't get to resume until this person leaves the field.
That too. That's the other thing. Do you want to make everybody mad or just me? Your choice, buddy. Your day's going to get worse. Mine's not. How many people do you want to piss off right now? That is a good point, Galin. Thank you.
Horus, any builds on heralding?
Really just that. Also, like, there's You don't need to try to call every cheating infraction you think you see. Like, don't call people's shots light or not light. Like, when the cheating is blatant, the people who are getting cheated will look right at you and be like, "What the fuck?" And then you go talk to that person
Or
because
you'll hear it.
they looked at you and were like, basically asked for the Herald. Or if it's really obvious, you'll know. You'll go talk to them. The other one is, don't be the if you're like completely unwilling to talk to somebody who's cheating and confront them, don't herald or like have somebody herald with you and like learn how to do it, because you got to be able to do that, because most of what you're going to do with as a herald is clarify stuff to people, enforce the edges or whatever, but like you're going to have to confront people, even though I guarantee you 99% of your interactions are going to be like totally fine. People are going to be like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, or they're blatantly cheating, and you'll be like, don't cheat, you can't do that, and they'll be like, oh, I didn't know, and it's like, you've been playing this game for 20 years, man. I've known you this whole time. Like, how do you not know
So
that?
you just got to say don't cheat before you say lay on, and then you've covered
Yeah.
it.
There you go.
Every time.
Also,
like,
don't cheat, lay on.
if you train yourself to assume first that the person just missed it.
Yeah.
If you train yourself to assume that first, you will start to see how they can miss it. But once you see that, you then start to what I call bird dog, which is you literally flank them and you see, is it consistent? And when it's consistent, you go, hey, bud, you missed a shot. Come here. I've seen it a couple times. Let me see what I think's happened. Because a lot of times if you watch it, you'll see that it happens in certain instances. For the dude who's sloughing the shot, he's sloughing the same right shoulder right here every time. But for every single person who came and fought him, all he did was slough a shot from them. They don't know that he's sloughing that specific shot when he leans forward, because he doesn't know that spot's getting hit somehow for some reason. You will find instances like that the more you watch for a second and then interact.
Yeah.
Well, that's more language and de-escalation. Like,
yes,
you didn't feel that shot, you're dead. Like, oh, I didn't bluff it. No, you didn't feel the shot, you're dead.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a good call. But it's a call, and you want heralds to make calls.
Exactly.
So, even though this was a bad call, you're dead.
If it's a bad call, come see me.
The onus is all on me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
We can talk about it later. I'm the marshal. You're dead.
The only time that doesn't work is when the dude that threw the shot says, I didn't hit him. And honestly, with good heart, there is no, I didn't hit that guy. There's that, but there's usually, no, I didn't hit him. When the other guy who swung the shot says, I didn't hit him. Cool, my bad.
Okay,
Then I make a joke at my own expense and like dance off to the side.
Exactly.
Final words. Let's talk. Could be about field battles. Could be about running heralding. What's our final words? 2 sentences each. Galin, what's your final words?
Just having heralds there, or extra heralds in the case of a scenario, will cause less people to cheat.
Yes.
And then field fighting it's just fun. You might actually fear for your life for a second. You might actually lead a charge. You might turn a flank. That's that tops the adrenaline of anything but like warlord. I don't know.
Techknowe, 2 sentences. Final thoughts on field battles.
Both fighting and running field battles are the only place where it is so easy for me to access flow state, because there's so much going on that I have to concentrate on it all at once, and it overflows over, and flow state happens.
Horus, 2 sentences.
Field battles are the special sauce. It is the thing that gets people hooked on Belegarth. It is the thing that I love the most about this game. It is the thing. There is nothing like 500, 600 people on a field all fighting each other. It's like, that's the brotherhood, that's the camaraderie, that's the fun. Like, there is nothing like that. Like, go fight. And please be nice to your heralds. They're really trying really hard at a very thankless job to
Any volunteer.
fun for you. Yes.
All volunteers. Yep. Even if you don't agree, be nice to them.
Tanny, 2 sentences. Oh, thanks, Tanny.
One day I'll say it.
You should have 2 different voices, and the other one should be government name.
Field battles are just a phenomenal amount of fun, and It lets you do the weird thing in the field battle. Use the weird weapon. Use the weird combo. Use the weird strategy. Why not? It's a field battle. Who cares? Thank you, Galin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Techknowe, for joining the bench this week. I want to thank both of y'all, and then Horus and I are going to close out the show. So, peace, love y'all.
Thanks for having us.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Important announcement. I don't think I've told anybody this. The bench will not be every week.
Oh, okay. I do.
The bench will be every other week. We're gonna do it in order to prevent both Horus and myself from completely burning out again. We're gonna do the show every other week, so that we have time to reconnect ourselves and put ourselves back together. So in 2 weeks' time, get ready for spear fighting featuring Merrick and Batman. That's gonna be our next episode. So I think that should be a fun one. Horus, as always, great job.
Oh yeah,
Wait.
This is fun. I'm glad we're back. What?
How did we? What was our thing that we ended the show with? You said a thing and then I said a thing, right?
I don't remember. I
think I said,
peace.
"Be yourself, don't hide." I don't know.
You're right.
It seems cheesy.
You're
now.
right.
Or
No. Just lean in. This is also my advice for field battles. Just lean in. Do the thing. Talk in the funny voice.
don't
Yell
hide.
the exciting thing. Like, this is what Belegarth is all about.
It is. It is. Peace. Love y'all. Catch you in 2 weeks.
See ya.
Another night, another bright red star. Another memory of you. I found a picture of the two of us. So I ripped it up and threw it on the way. They say time makes it better, but here I am, still holding on and going nowhere fast. If forever is only as long as it takes to forget all the pain from the past. No escape from today. From today. I walk alone down this empty street. The lights above me dim, but I can't sleep. 'Cause somewhere in time, I'm still holding you. I'll try to bring it back somehow, make this all come true. And as the sun sets, I turn around and get the feeling that I'm wasting my time. They say time makes you stronger, but here I am, still clinging to these faded memories. If forever's forever, then where are you now? Why aren't you right here with me? No escape from today. They say